So I'm live now, apparently on Facebook, and I did another video last night, but there was a few buffering issues. Hey, look, what I'm saying is coming up, more of them. But this should be better because I think I've solved the buffering issues. So what I wanted to talk about was a bloke called Gary Reifers, who did this video about recovering reality. And he did this scale, which he called the feeling scale, which I'm looking at it now. And it was a feeling scale of 1 to 10. By the way, it's 28th of September, 8:47 Wednesday. And I am two and a bit weeks to 7.5 years sober. It will be 15th of October 2022 that I am 7.5 years sober. And also that picture, the first one, the large one, the main one was taken on the very day I had my last drink. The drink is not in the photo, but I can assure you it was below the frame. And that was taken on the 15th of April 2015. The other one was taken on I think it was 2019. It was, I think it was I don't know, October 2019. I'm not too sure about the date of that one. I know that one. But that second one, I think, was about 4.5 years sober. That second one. And now it is nearly 7.5 years sober. So doesn't time fly? Bloody hell. Now, this guy called Gary Reifers, he was the he still is. He was the director of this place called the Oxford Treatment Centre, which is in America, and he was doing these lessons for people who had addictive alcoholic issues, and he came up with this feeling scale from 1 to 10, and the worst was I'm looking at a shot of it, the video we did now. The worst of it was number 1, which was suicidal despair. I'm not going to go into what happened to me. Maybe a bit. We'll just talk about the feeling scale at the moment. Keep to the topic of discussion. It might be a good idea. Yeah, it might be helpful. Yes. Anyway, number 1 was suicidal despair, which is basically near death. You're absolutely out of it. You've absolutely lost hope in absolutely everything, and you've gone completely mad, right? That's number one. Number two is deep depression, which is you're pretty mad, but you're just not mad enough to actually want to kill yourself, but you're still pretty mad. Yeah. Number three was guilt, shame, grief, and anger. And what I will say about this, these emotions are both residing within the conscious brain, but they are also in the subconscious brain. And what that means is somebody could say to you consciously, "Oh, I love you. I think you're a nice person," right? And they may not even be aware of this themselves, right? This is the interesting thing about it, that it takes a lot of self-awareness and therapy to actually realize that you may have buried these negative emotions in your subconscious. Now, if they're in your subconscious, it's much harder for a person to be actually aware of those. But once you stop drinking, you suddenly become aware of them, right? And so this is a discrepancy. Somebody could say, I love you, and actually subconsciously think, I hate you. Isn't it interesting? Isn't human life interesting? So there you go. So that's the battle between the subconscious and the conscious. Right now, when you stop drinking, you've got to be more honest with yourself, right? Because that subconscious, what you really mean, but you buried it, is going to be coming out of your system. So, but it's good because you feel much better, because my words now are pretty congruent with what I'm feeling. So they're pretty truthful, I think, which is helpful for you and helpful for other people, especially helpful for you in the end. It's actually the person you're really helping is yourself. So that's number three. It's still pretty bad, man. It's still pretty bad. Still pretty bad. Number four is restless, irritable, discontent, and bored. So I think this stage is when you first, well, I think it was for me anyway. Everybody's different. But for me, this happened when I initially stopped drinking. And this went on and on and on for 3-4 years, right? I mean, when you do a video once a year, you can, you kind of you're only doing a video for like 10 minutes in the whole year. You know, some of these YouTubers actually, and they're recovering from drinking. They film everything, you know, every day of their lives as they go through, or every once a week. Nah, 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 nah. I don't mind doing this once every 6 months or once a year, but I think I don't think people wanted to see that. But you know, some people do that. But nah, I'd rather watch other people and do a video once a year, you know, and try and be positive. But the restless, the irritable, the discontent, and the bored definitely happened when you stop drinking. And yeah, you are actually recovering from addictive substance, and you know, it's going to be very difficult because you're not used to it at all. I was drinking for 30 years, and that's what I was used to. So that that even might be to do with how much you drank, right? So, but the system, but the human's body's pretty good. It will go into repair mode the minute you stop drinking, right? So you just gotta like hold on, and just like keep very very busy. As I said in the previous video, and do a hobby that you're interested. I said this before, and gradually, if you do that, the irritability, discontent, things, restlessness, all boredom, nature will subside. But I'd say 3 or 4 years. It's tough. It's tough, you know. And you just basically take one day at a time. You take one day at a time, and you just do what you're capable of doing at the time, you know. So it's pretty difficult. But if, yeah, do that. On Gary Reifers' scale, number 5 is neutral, which is kind of like the neutral zone in Star Trek 2. Well, it is actually, because that was actually the neutral zone, wasn't it? That was like between the Klingons and Federation. So they're like a limbo. That's why it was called the neutral zone, wasn't it? Yeah, so this is like a neutral zone where it's not negative, but it's not positive. It's just like you just out of it, man. Wow, it's neutral zone. Now the thing with the neutral zone, Star Trek 2, isn't it? The neutral zone could it could last for a day, or it could last for a week, or it could last for a month. You could be in the neutral zone, or for 6 months, right? It's a bit subtle. It's a bit subtle. For me, I didn't really. I think it did happen, but I think it was very quick. So you can only be in the neutral zone. It is like Star Trek 2, but not a very long time period. That's what happened in the film, wasn't it? Yeah, it is. Well, that was assuming. Yeah. Anyway, we all know it's a very famous film. But yes, so you can be in the neutral zone, but you won't be in the neutral zone very long. It will switch to a more positive feeling, and that's good. That's good. That's good. So once that happens, you're into positive emotions. You're into far more positive emotions, and the productivity and the learning capability, especially new things, starts to come to the fore. And when that happens, you are very busy. You're very busy, right? But it's not. You're kind of irritable, but you're still very busy. It's a mixture of both. Kind of a mixture of, but you're more positive, more busy, making videos. I'll make that Russia video, learn the new video editing, keep busy, and then you're also reading all stuff. I've said this before, reading all stuff about alcohol, but you are in a more busy frame of mind, which is more positive and more productive for you and everybody else concerned. Now, that's number 6, and that can go on for. Well, I think that can go on for another 3 or 4 years, right? The key, but here's the key one that you're really aiming for, though. You're really aiming for number 7, number 8, and number 7 is happy and content, and number 8 is peace and serenity. So, yes, and I think it's touch wood, but I think it's at that level, one of those levels now, at 7.5 years sober. It's not as busy. It's not as busy. That is true because the desk is pretty clear, so it's not as busy. It's not bored, though. I don't feel like I have much to do. But there probably will be things to do. There are things to do, but what it is that there are still things to do. But what it is that there's not a pile up of loads of problems that are piled up. There are still problems and things, but there are not loads of problems that are piled up. You've got to go through all the time. I think that's how I best describe it. Life's not a bed of roses, but it's basically you're in a position where you've still got a few problems and everything, but you can deal with them one step at a time, right? And you can think about them and deal with them one step at a time, right? When you're drinking and before, all the problems pile up, and I think that's what the difference is. I think that's what happy and content is really. It's a less stressful state. It's not perfect. Everything's not perfect in life. Life is what it is. But you're able to now deal with problems a step at a time because you have less problems. You have less problems to deal with, and you're just dealing with problems which are very more recent rather than past problems. So that does put you in a state of more happiness because you're less stressful because you've dealt with previous problems. So that you're more in control of things, and when they pop up, you can deal with things far more effectively. I would put it that way. See, and then the reason why you're doing that is because your brain has cleared up and dealt with previous problems. So that generates a feeling of happiness and less stress, and also the positive emotions generate that also. That's basically what it is. life's not a bed of roses, man. But that's what generates the happiness. That you're now dealing with problems that are in the present more, and learning your brain is much more in the present moment rather than the past, and that then generates the happiness more in the now. So that's really kind of like the state of 7 on the feeling scale, which he calls happy and content, and number 8, which he calls peace and serenity. So that's kind of how I describe it, really. Having pretty much got there. So but it's certainly better than loads of things piling up and getting so chaotic that you don't know what the hell's going on. Right? It is a better state than that. That is for sure. That is for sure. So there we go. So in 2 weeks' time, I will be 7.5 years sober, and I'll probably do a video then about that. And there we go. Cheers.